Hello everyone, I'm Eleanor from the KU Natural History Museum. In this episode of Pop-Up Science Online, we're going to check out the museum's live reptile exhibit. I'm really excited because special guest Dr. Paul Heim, a postdoctoral researcher in the museum's herpetology department, will also be joining us today, and he's going to introduce us to a beautiful crested gecko. During the episode, I'll show you how to do a fun activity that explores how reptiles are ectotherms, or animals that rely on their external environment to control their body temperature. To find step-by-step instructions for the activity, head to our Museum from Home webpage and click on the Pop-Up Science tab. There, you'll find a downloadable PDF with all the instructions. Before we meet the museum's live reptiles, let's talk a little bit about reptiles as a group. The word reptile comes from the ancient Latin word reptilis, which refers to the concept of creeping, crawling, or slinking. There are more than 10,000 different species of reptiles, and you can find them on all of Earth's continents except for Antarctica. Reptiles are a group of vertebrates, which are animals that have a backbone, and includes crocodiles, alligators, lizards, snakes, turtles, and tortoises. Based on fossil evidence, paleontologists have dated the earliest reptile to about 315 million years ago. Although the animals we call reptiles actually belong to 4 separate evolutionary lineages, we tend to group them together based on their shared morphology, their shared body form and features, like the arrangement of their limbs. Reptiles have a distinctive body shape, and most are covered in a connected sheet of scales that protect them from injury and prevent them from losing water. Most reptiles lay eggs, and one particularly important shared feature of reptiles is the way in which they control their body temperature. They rely on their external environment to regulate their internal body temperature. This adaptation is called ectothermy. Ectotherms warm up their bodies by basking in the sunlight to absorb heat from the sun's rays. And when they get too warm, they move to a shady spot or a burrow underground to cool down. Because ectotherms do not need to create their own body heat, their metabolic rates are slow, and reptiles can get by with as little as 1/10 the food that endotherms, like mammals and birds, need to eat. To put that in perspective, that's like saying that you, a mammal, would need to eat 10 strawberries, but an herbivorous reptile, such as an iguana, would only need to eat 1 strawberry. Some species of reptiles can go weeks and weeks without eating. They just simply reduce their activity levels and wait. A fun and simple activity to explore ectothermy involves just a few items: black construction paper, scissors, a desk lamp, a thermometer or smartphone thermometer app, and a timer. Using the lizard template included in the activity instructions, cut out 2 lizard shapes from the construction paper. Place 1 lizard shape directly under the desk lamp, and then the other one at least 3 feet away in a darker, shadier spot. Using the timer, wait 10 minutes and then feel the temperature differences with the back of your hand. Take a temperature reading with the thermometer to see what the numerical differences are. You can even try this activity outside by placing one of the lizard shapes on a rock in the sunlight versus one in a shady spot. If you try this experiment, be sure to share your results with us on our social media accounts. Now let's meet a few of these wonderful ectothermic reptiles that live at the museum. First are the snakes. Remember, snakes are an important part of our ecosystems and they deserve our respect. Snakes can seem a little scary sometimes, but they play a vital role in the food chain. If you find a snake while out on a walk, just give it plenty of space and let it be. This cutie with its upturned, pointed snout is a western hognose snake. Its scientific name is Heterodon nasiccus. This snake species is native to Kansas and lives in prairie and grassland habitats. This type of snake is non-venomous, meaning that it doesn't produce toxic saliva to immobilize prey or defend itself against threats. In the wild, western hognose snakes tend to be active during the daytime, and they mostly eat toads, frogs, and small lizards. You might be curious about its hognose. It's actually a modified nose scale, which makes them very good at burrowing. Their nose acts like a tiny shovel. If threatened, The western hognose puffs up its neck like a cobra and hisses very loudly. If this doesn't scare the threat away, the snake will roll over onto its back and pretend to be dead, and then it produces a smelly odor. Usually, predators don't want to eat stinky, potentially rotten food, so they typically leave the snake alone. Next up is the common king snake. Its scientific name is Lampropeltis jatula, and it's native to much of the Midwest, including Kansas, the southeastern U.S., and parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeastern U.S., as well as northern Mexico. This species tends to live in open areas like grasslands, abandoned farms, deserts, swamps, and streams. Common king snakes, which are non-venomous, prefer to eat other snakes, including venomous species like copperheads and rattlesnakes. As you can imagine, sometimes their favorite snack tries to fight back, but they have a unique adaptation. They are immune to venom. These snakes will also eat frogs, small lizards, and turtle eggs, as well as small mammals like mice, which they kill by constriction. This is a red milk snake, scientific name Lampropeltis triangulum suspilla. It's a type of king snake, and it's just one of 24 different subspecies of milk snake. They get their unusual name of milk snake from a folk tale that claimed this kind of snake would sneak into barns and drink cow's milk. But snakes don't do that, and they can't even digest dairy products. This species is primarily nocturnal, preferring to hunt at night. They like to eat mice, rats, small lizards, and other snakes, including the highly venomous coral snake. Milk snakes kill their prey by constricting it and swallowing it whole. Like many other types of snakes, milk snakes spend the cold winter in a burrow or a rock crevice. This is called brumation, and it's similar to hibernation, but the snakes wake up to drink water. Okay, let's visit the anoles. Anoles are a very diverse group of lizards. There are nearly 400 different species. They're native to tropical and subtropical habitats in the southeastern U.S., Central America, and the northern and central countries of South America. Most anole species have dewlaps, which are special flaps of cartilage covered in skin that an anole can extend or close from under its throat. The dewlap serves as a signal for attracting mates, claiming territory, and intimidating predators. Many anoles have the ability to change color depending on their emotions, activity level, and social cues, such as trying to display dominance. Scientists at the museum conduct research on evolutionary relationships between different anole species. First up is the Carolina green anole, scientific name Anoles carolinensis. It's the only anole native to the United States. This species likes to live in trees, but you can also find it perched on fences and rooftops. They're active during the day, and they eat a wide variety of insects, spiders, and other invertebrates. Because of other species of anoles having been introduced into the southeastern United States, native green anoles are having to compete against those other species, and their populations are declining. Next is the Cuban giant anole, scientific name Anoles equestris. It's one of the largest species of anole. As its name indicates, this species is native to the island of Cuba in the Caribbean Sea. They can live in a wide range of habitats, including forests, mangroves, and suburban areas like gardens. In the wild, they like to eat insects, snails, and some types of fruit. Cuban giant anoles are extremely territorial, and if they feel they're being challenged, they'll extend their dewlaps, puff up with air, and open their mouths wide to show many small, sharp teeth. Lastly is the lovely Orient night anole. Its scientific name is Anoles smallwoodii, and it's also native to Cuba. This species is only found in a small area of far eastern Cuba that was previously known as Orient province, which is where it gets its name from. They live in mangrove and shrubland habitats, but sadly, because of habitat destruction, this species' long-term survival in the wild is threatened. This particular anole is about 7 years old, and it was donated to the museum by the Nashville Zoo. Now let's meet another type of lizard that's a distant relative of the anoles, geckos. Dr. Paul Heim will tell us all about the crested gecko, a species that was once thought to have gone extinct.
Hello, my name is Paul Heim, and I am a postdoctoral researcher in the KU Natural History Museum and Biodiversity Institute. I am a herpetologist, and that's a type of scientist that studies reptiles and amphibians. And today I'm going to be talking about some lizard adaptations with this New Caledonian crested gecko. Now this is a pet gecko that I have had for over 13 years. This is a full-grown adult. In the wild they can live to be about 5 to 10 years, but in captivity they can live over 25 years. You'll notice that on the sides of the head, the neck, and the back, there are these two crests, and they have frilly scales on them. Now, like all reptiles, the crested gecko is covered in hard, keratinized scales, and those scales are an adaptation for regulating water loss, so it keeps them from drying out, and it also provides them some mechanical protection when they're crawling around their habitats. Now, these geckos are native to the island of New Caledonia, which is in the South Pacific Ocean. They were originally identified in the mid-1800s, around 1866, and there were so few of them discovered after that that they were thought to be extinct until 1994, when a group of biologists returned to New Caledonia and rediscovered one population. One of the most striking adaptations of geckos is that many species of geckos have sticky pads on the underside of their toes. And in this genus, there's also a sticky pad on the underside of the tail. And you'll notice as I turn her upside down, she can grip to my finger using those sticky pads. One of the other big adaptations that this group of geckos has is that they are nocturnal. Many, but not all, geckos are nocturnal, meaning that they are active in the nighttime. And one adaptation that they have for nocturnality are these big eyes. And the eyes of many geckos have adaptations of having additional rod cells, the type of cells in our eye that help us differentiate light and dark. In the wild, crested geckos are omnivorous, meaning that they eat a variety of foods, both plant materials like fruit and animals like insects. And in captivity, we also give her a diet of insects and fruit. She just segued beautifully into the last adaptation that I'm going to talk about, which is her jumping ability. These geckos are what we call arboreal, and they use not only their sticky pads, but little claws on the end of their toes to grip onto branches and trees where they climb and forage for food. I hope that you've enjoyed learning about the New Caledonian crested gecko, and when we are back in the precedented times, I'd like to invite you to come back out to the KU Natural History Museum and check out lots of our exhibits that feature other cool adaptations of reptiles and amphibians.
That was awesome! Thanks, Paul. And thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the museum's live reptiles and meeting Paul's crested gecko. Reptiles are so cool! Be sure to mark your calendar for the next Pop-Up Science episode on October 17th, where we'll explore radioactivity and try out a Geiger counter. Bye!